Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with another episode of the Snowflake Watch, where I cover various clips and online videos. And we're going to be doing this for the next maybe hour, maybe even 2 hours. The time of this live stream is the 3rd of April 2024 at 8 p.m. UK time. Hello, live chat. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're having a good week so far. Yes, just in case anybody does ask, I am aware Max is going live in half an hour, and no, I am not going to be ending the stream early, just in case anyone wants. So if anyone does happens to go and switch over there, that's perfectly all right, but for those who choose to stay throughout the whole live stream, thank you, I really do appreciate it. Today's live chat, we have which we will be talking about today, is: do you believe Israel will be punished for the crimes it has committed inside Gaza? Allegedly. Now I put allegedly, obviously, of course, because just to kind of cover myself, pretty much. So far 11 people have cast their votes on that. 27% of you think yes, 64% of you think no, 9% of you are not sure, or don't know, basically. So thank you for those who have casted their votes so far, greatly appreciate it. Those we got in the chat so far: Stephen Banker is here, good evening Stephen, good to see you, I hope you're doing well. Satu is here as well, good to see you, I hope you're doing well. One Angry Pagan is here as well, good to see you. And Jao is here as well, moderator as always. Thank you very much for coming along, guys, greatly appreciate it. Just so you know, really good, the orb is already formed, which is a good thing, so it's already nice and bubbly already, which is very rare for start of a live stream. Ollie is, as usual, grumpy, but grumpy more, not so much with me, not so much about the Easter egg that he's eaten. No, he's upset about what's been happening in Gaza, which we are going to be covering quite a bit of today, guys. And there's quite a few clips that I've got for you guys before we talk about it. But I have to say, you know, the last, obviously, 48 hours ever since the strike on the aid truck, those who lost their lives, is, while I'm glad to hear that there's anger and outrage, like my thought is, like, where were you, like, where have you been, like? And now that there's growing calls for the UK to stop its arms to Israel, my complaint is, where have you been? You should have been doing this before the October the 7th Hamas attack. You should have been calling for the removal of these weapons long before that. Like, where has this anger been? Like, it's only, and this is what I've said before about how it always has to be a case of innocent people need to innocent people need to die before people start waking up. And the fact that it's British civilians, citizens that have died here, that has actually made some kind of wake-up call, which is really, really frustrating to say the least, as well. So I'm absolutely furious. Also, we are dual streaming on twitch.tv as well, so anyone on the Twitch chat, feel free to say hello as well. I do have both chats up on my devices as well, so feel free to say hello there. Steve McMorgan, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well as well. I don't think I've missed anyone. No, I have not. Right, so before we start, before we go through the clips I want to cover on Gaza, I wanted to cover this piece here from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She delivered a really powerful speech, and I thought I really wanted to share this with you guys. I think it's really, really quite an interesting one. Considering the situation and about how America's position is on Israel, I think it's quite telling a lot. But let's just hear what she has to say on this.
If you want to know what an unfolding genocide looks like, open your eyes. It looks like the forced famine of 1.1 million innocents. It looks like thousands of children eating grass as their bodies consume themselves while trucks of food are slowed and halted just miles away. It looks like good and decent people who do nothing, or too little, too late. It is against United States law to provide weapons to forces who block United States humanitarian assistance.
That is exactly what is happening. That is exactly what is happening. And how are the US responding? As of right now, nothing. Nothing.
And that is exactly what is happening right now. Mr. Speaker, I know a man, a decent man, who said that preventing genocide is an achievable goal, a goal that requires a level of government organization and engagement that matches in its intensity the brutality and efficiency required to carry out mass killing. Too often, these efforts have come too late, after the best and least costly opportunities to prevent them have been missed. The man that said that was then Vice President and now President Joseph Biden. And he was right. Mr. Speaker, I rise to say that such a time is now.
No, it shouldn't have been now. It should have been yesterday. It should have been the day before yesterday. It should have been a week before today. It should have been 2 weeks before then. Where was this Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Where was she? I'm sorry, it's all good to say now. Where were you before when this was happening?
As we speak, in this moment, 1.1 million innocents in Gaza are at famine's door. A famine that is being intentionally precipitated through the blocking of food and global humanitarian assistance by leaders in the Israeli government.
You know, when they talk about famine, they're talking about what's happening there. You know, I'm just wondering, like, why, where are these lot when it comes to Sudan? How many times have I brought up Sudan, guys? How many times have I mentioned Sudan and the situation that's happening there? Where is the outcry of anger of 25 million Sudanese struggling to feed themselves, suffering from famine? Where is the same cry? Oh, it's not the same thing. Oh, it's not in the Middle East. Oh, it's not in Europe. It's on a different continent, so we have to think of it differently. That's the perception that I have painted here. When I hear what she's saying, pouring her heart out about the situation, where is this same anger when it comes to other conflicts? Silence. Silence.
This is a mass starvation of people, engineered and orchestrated following the killing of another 30,000, 70% of whom were women and children killed. There is hardly a single hospital left. And this was all accomplished, much of this accomplished, with U.S. resources and weapons. The time is now to force compliance with U.S. law and the standards of humanity, and fulfill our obligations to the American people to suspend the transfer of U.S. weapons to the Israeli government in order to stop and prevent further atrocity.
Now, I don't know any politicians in America that have said this, as far as I'm aware, but this is the first time I've heard an American politician saying we need to stop sending weapon arms to Israel. Now, this is the one of the... Now, the fact that it's fine that someone is actually saying, hey, you know what, maybe we should stop sending weapon arms to them because, you know, it's killing innocent people. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy that she's finally saying this. But again, like I said earlier, where were they when this was building up? Where were they when the thousands of innocent Palestinians were dying? Where were you then? And it's only now we are hearing this.
Honoring our alliances does not mean facilitating mass killing. We cannot hide from our responsibility any longer. Blocking assistance from one's closest allies to starve 1 million people is not unintentional. We have a responsibility to prove the value of global democracy, enshrined in the upholding of civil society, rule of law, and commitment to human and civil rights. This is not just about Israel or Gaza. This is about us. The world will never be the same, and we will never be the same. And we must write our story in this moment of what it means and who we are as Americans. And our story must be not that we were good men who did nothing, but that we were a committed democracy that did something. And we must prove that now.
Again, where were you? Where were you, AOC? Where were you? Again, like, it's all well and good. It's all well and good you saying that. But where were you? I'm just going to say a quick hello to those in the chat before we continue. Dave McGuinness, good to see you there. I hope you're doing well. Ben Shaw, good to see you there. Cathal is there as well. Good to see you. I think I've caught everyone who's popped in. Great to see you guys all. Much appreciated. She was being muzzled. She also has a choice as well. I'm sorry, but she has a choice just like everybody else. And she chose to keep quiet about it. The Dems were keeping her quiet. No, she has a choice, like any other person. They have a choice. Even Ferrari has turned after the three Brits had died. Yes, I've seen that video from Nick Ferrari. That was very good. I say very good. I say it's nice to hear Nick speaking some common sense for a change. I will say that. Yeah, interesting to say the least. So we're going to continue on with the theme of Gaza, guys. The first clip I have for you guys here, the first actual clip here, is from the Shadow Minister, Pak McFadden, is clear that Israel is an ally. Labour aren't calling for a ban on sales to arms. This was on the 2nd of April. If Labour win the next election, they will continue selling arms to them. You sure you want to die on this hill, Labour?
Is Labour comfortable selling arms to Israel?
Look, we always want Israel or any ally to abide by international humanitarian law. We've said that all the way through this conflict. And, you know, that's what guides our policy.
So is that a yes or a no? I'm not sure.
Well, we don't have a border.
Is that a yes or a no? You can answer the question, Pat. You can answer the question. You are a human being. you're not supposed to be red Tories, right? You're supposed to differentiate themselves from them. Surely you're capable of saying that, right? I mean, surely you don't want the Labour Party and the British government to be complicit in genocide now. Surely we would agree that we should cease arms to Israel, right?
Boycott of selling arms to Israel,
even given what's happening in Gaza at the moment.
Look, there are three things which have guided our policy since this phase of this began 6 months ago. One is the return of the hostages, some of whom are still being held.
Yeah.
The second is a sustainable stop to this conflict, not just a pause where it starts up again in a few months.
But you're not answering my question.
Yes, you're not answering the question. Answer the question.
What is your question?
My question is Labour comfortable selling arms to Israel at the moment?
The nerve! He asked... That really triggered me there. When he said, what was your question? You knew what the damn question was! You've just been rattling on, trying to dodge it. I'm sorry, this is just pathetic. It really, really is.
Well, if we are selling arms to allies who are abided by international humanitarian law, then that's something that...
So you do think that Israel's abiding by international law?
Well, if there's proper legal evidence that they aren't, the government should come out and say so. We've said...
Do you think, guys, Israel are going to come up and say to the British government, you know what, I don't think you guys should be selling arms to us, we might not be, complicit with international law. Maybe you guys shouldn't sell arms to us, just saying. Is that the perception that he's trying to make here? Do you know how pathetic that sounds? Do you know how absolutely pathetic that sounds? The only way this is going to be... the only way that if by his logic, let's just say hypothetically, because we are going to go a bit cuckoo here, let's just go by his crazy logic, we would have to wait for the International Criminal Court of Justice, the ICJ, to say that Israel are committing acts of genocide. Would then and only then the British government act on this? A future Labour government possibility waiting on this? Like, that's how crazy we are thinking about this. That's not a good start. Not a good start. So this was obviously the report yesterday. I'm not going to play it, but it says 8 ships turning back Gaza of around 240 tons of undelivered aid after the killing of 7 World Kitchen aid workers. So essentially a ship from Greece with a ton of aid that was coming to, for those who don't know, that was going into Gaza, was turned away after the loss of life of the aid workers there. Now this one, I have not seen an update since. This was yesterday, but I'm just going to play this one for you guys.
A bit more developing news coming out of the Middle East. We brought you the news this morning about the deaths of 7 aid workers in what's believed to be an attack by the Israeli forces on a convoy of aid workers inside Gaza. Well, we're now hearing from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about the negotiation talks that are taking place in Cairo. They've been going on in Cairo for quite a few weeks now. Benjamin Netanyahu says a new Gaza truce and hostage release proposal has been drafted in these talks and presented to Hamas. Obviously, Israel is hoping that some kind of truce talks will lead to the recovery of all of their hostages. Those in Gaza are hoping for a ceasefire. But Netanyahu now says that there has been another truce and hostage release proposal drafted and presented to Hamas. We shall see if they have any response.
So at the time of this recording, I've not seen a response. So if someone has seen a response, please let me know in the comments as soon as possible, because I really want to know what Hamas's response to it is. I will say, obviously, that I'm hoping that this is actually pressure from the US and Western allies to push for a ceasefire. But at the same time, we also know that Netanyahu is reluctant to call one as well, due to the fact that this man is incredibly desperate to hold on to power, and the perception of that is definitely coming through. Just want to show you this statistic here. This is quite shocking, guys. Excuse me. That from Dr. Dan Gould, Israel have killed over 200 aid workers in only 6 months, plus over 350 healthcare staff. That's over double the number of aid workers that were killed during the entire Rwandan genocide. The Israeli government complete disregard for all other people and laws is beyond belief here. This is a source from the Humanitarian Outcome Aid Workers Security Database here. And occupied Palestinian territories there, you can see highlighted just how much they're just in Palestine itself, and in comparison to other places around the world, incredibly huge there, to say the least. So here on the left here, Andrew Mitchell saying we're regularly reviewing Israel's adherence to international law and we're acting by it. And on the right is Al Dubs telling Santiago Moscow that Israel's own future is being endangered by what Israelis are doing, and I don't believe what the Israeli government and has the support it needs. So let's listen in, guys.
Adherence to international. We regularly review Israel's adherence to international humanitarian law, and we act in accordance with that.
And indeed, Israel is behaving very badly. And of course, the tragedy in all this is that Israel's own future is being endangered by what the Israelis are doing. I don't believe the Israeli government has the support of the majority of people in Israel anymore.
And we're going to see some footage from the weekend on that point shortly, guys.
The majority of Israelis want the hostages back, and they don't believe this slaughter of Palestinians and the starvation of Palestinians should continue. So, pretty well everybody except a minority in Israel, led by the government of Israel, are saying we've got to have a different policy. We've got to be humane. We've got to let food get in.
The question raised for the UK government as a result of that report in The Observer is as follows. If it is indeed the case that UK government lawyers have advised the Foreign Office that Israel is breaking international humanitarian law, there has been some debate as to whether or not the fact that the UK continues to allow weapon sales to Israel, whether or not that means that the UK may at some point be accused of being complicit in also breaking international humanitarian law. Is that a concern that you have?
Well, I think it is a concern, and I'm very much concerned about the supply of weapons, military equipment to Israel that is being used against the Palestinians in Gaza, and I think we have to be very, very careful. I think we probably should no longer sell arms and military equipment to Israel while this situation continues. So yes, it is a big concern, and we don't want to be complicit in this. But above all, this action in Gaza has got to stop. It's got to stop quickly because people's lives are in danger.
Well, it's all well and good saying this. Again, I've said this before and I've said this again. It's all well and good them saying this now. But where were you guys since October the 7th when the body count started piling up on Palestinians? Where were they then when we reached 5,000 Palestinian lives lost, 10,000 Palestinian lives lost, 15,000 Palestinian lives lost? Where were the calls then from them? 20,000 Palestinians, 25,000 Palestinians, 30,000. You weren't hearing this in the mainstream media when we hit 30,000. Only now we are hearing this in the mainstream media. Only now we are hearing these calls. Good evening, Andrew Luke. Good to see you there as well. Where were the calls then, guys? Where were the calls then? Here on March the 26th, David Lammy asked Andrew Mitchell if the Foreign Secretary David Cameron received legal advice saying that Israel had broken international law. He replied that we regularly review Israel's adherence to international law. And then Alicia Keane stands by her claims on March the 31st here. So let's listen in.
Has the Foreign Secretary received legal advice saying there is a clear risk that items licensed by the UK might be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law?
We have, Mr. Speaker, a robust arms export licensing regime.
So that's not a denial. So they may have been given it and they've just said, well, we don't care. So they may have been given legal advice and they've completely ignored it. I mean, they do want to break international law in a limited and specific way. of course.
All exports are regularly assessed against clear criteria. We regularly review Israel's adherence to international humanitarian law.
Conservative MP Alicia Cairns, someone who is the chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, so he's quite a big voice in Westminster on matters to do with foreign policy. The Observer newspaper was handed a recording of her at a meeting saying that the government had been given legal advice saying that Israel's war in Gaza was in contravention of international humanitarian law.
Oh, so they was told. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I just heard Andrew Mitchell saying that he didn't deny it or whatever. So I don't know. Maybe Andrew was misleading us or lying. Well, to be fair, he wasn't directly answering the question either. To be fair, Al-Sakir, good to see you there, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Maybe I'm going cuckoo, guys.
Now, we went to Alicia Cairns. She essentially stood by what she said in that recording. She said that it was her firm belief, it was her belief that the government had got this legal advice suggesting that what was going on was against international humanitarian law.
And, of course, they've done nothing about it since then, either, which is really, really infuriating. This is originally from ITV1 here. Kevin Maguire saying Alicia Cairns, the chair of the All-Party Foreign Affairs Committee, said the government had got legal advice from humanitarian law that had been broken. The government should publish that advice. Do you think the government's going to publish it? Something tells me they're not going to, guys. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say they're probably not.
33,000 people killed in Gaza by the Israelis. The vast majority are women and children who are not combatants. It almost feels as if it moves, shoot, kill it. Because you've had so many reports, medical staff, other aid workers, families just being obliterated. Now, the apologies have got to end. Look, this is a war crime. Now, Britain has got legal advice, we believe, the Foreign Office. Mr. Cairns, chair of the All-Party Foreign Affairs Committee, said the government has got legal advice that humanitarian law has been broken. The government should publish that advice so we can see that our government believes war crimes are being committed by Israel. And why are we still selling weapons and defense equipment and supporting Israel? Long-standing ally, but they are guilty here of war crimes. So, huge sympathy what happened on October the 7th. Hamas was savage, and that in itself was a crime, what happened in Israel. But the killing and the mass slaughter of so many Palestinians and aid workers is a war crime. We can't just keep saying, oh, look, this isn't good enough, we need inquiries, it's terrible. You've got to act. You cannot allow this to happen. Can you imagine if it was Russia doing this in Ukraine? We quite rightly, utterly condemn it. You'd be imposing sanctions. We impose sanctions. Why is Israel being allowed to do this in Gaza? And it's not just us, it's also the Americans. They're still supplying arms.
When we look
Why
at what
is
Israel...
this going on? 33.
And he's absolutely right. I couldn't have said it better than what Kevin said it there. He's just absolutely on point with how I generally feel about the whole situation there. And obviously, a lot of nations have ceased or suspend. A lot of nations have ceased and suspended already their arms to it. We know, as far as I'm aware, France has still supplying weapon arms to Israel. I know there have been calls for them to. There have been calls for them to cease weapon and arms. So I will actually have a look again later on to see if France have ceased or suspended their weapon arms as well, because I do think that's a question. I know that the Netherlands had made some amendments or changes as well to do it, to stop and suspend them. I don't know. I can't recall or not. If someone can remind me in the chat, if Canada ceased their weapons supplies to Israel as well. But definitely a lot of nations have kind of stepped back before this happened and saying, you know what, we don't want to be complicit in this. Jal says, I know Portugal was selling grenades to Israel, but we stopped. I'm going to assume you guys have stopped a lot more than that, to be fair, there as well. Yeah. So here's another one, guys, not too long ago as well. Rishi Sunak talking to the son of all people. Asked here about it. Let's just hear what he had to say.
These were brave Brits who were actually risking their lives to bring aid to people in need in Gaza. To have lost their lives in these circumstances is tragedy. My thoughts, obviously, with their family and their friends at this time. You know, I spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu last night and was very clear with him that the situation is increasingly intolerable, and what we urgently need to see is a thorough, transparent investigation into what has happened, but also a dramatic increase in the amount of aid getting into Gaza, removing the barriers, but also closer work with aid agencies to make sure things like this don't happen again.
Just before we hear from Mark Austin, I feel like, yeah, he was smiling at the start of that clip, Joe. I do think that Rishi Sunak here is saying that there needs to be an investigation. Clearly, either he hasn't seen the footage or he's just denying it. We've seen the literal badges on the bodies that they are aid workers. They were aid workers. There's no arguing, there's no denying, there's no beating around the bush whatsoever on this situation. We know that they were aid workers. Yes, you can say you need to do an investigation, but the evidence is black and white. It's very clear what happened. We know that. And just stop the weapons arms already, Sunak. Just stop it already. 91 Leeds, good to see you there, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Let's hear what Mark Austin had to say there.
First thing to say is these were apparently clearly marked vehicles. The second thing to say is they had been what's called deconflicted, which means the Israelis apparently knew where they were and when.
These were brave Brits who...
So he just said right there. Just play it again, just for those who didn't... just there.
Don't happen again.
The first thing to say is these were apparently clearly marked vehicles. The second thing to say is they had been what's called deconflicted, which means the Israelis apparently knew where they were and when.
The other point as well is that this was in coordination with the Israeli Defense Force when this happened. So the IDF knew. They knew that this aid truck was where it was going. They knew everything. They had everything. All the clearances was done. So they knew. They knew what happened. They knew what they were doing. And they deliberately and intentionally, I'm stating, allegedly, targeted that aid truck and killed those people. There's no there's no grey area in this. They knew who they were, they know where they were going, they knew their movements, everything was all done in conjunction with the IDF on this. They knew. And it's very important to mention that. James O'Brien with his point on this as well.
So why won't they let foreign correspondents...
Oh, sorry, not just James O'Brien on this. So James O'Brien, I listened to the full call earlier, but it's in part of the call. So he had a caller here trying to answer why Israel won't let foreign journalists into Gaza. This, you can see the full footage. It's about 12 minutes long. I think it's on LBC, but let's listen to a bit of it here, guys.
So why won't they let foreign correspondents who are absolutely chomping at the bit to get into Gaza, get into Gaza?
Let's also remind people that Al Jazeera are not allowed to have any of their journalists inside Gaza. They've been banned now as well. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that?
Well, I don't know. I don't.
You're not going to answer it. You know that. I know that.
No.
We know what the answer is. We know that it's because Israel cannot countenance what would actually be reported.
What, hiding arms in maternity wards?
No, because they can't let journalists in. Because if they did, you wouldn't be able to come on the radio and tell lies like that.
A lie of finding arms and finding munitions in a maternity ward, is that a lie?
Well, you tell me. You tell me the journalists that have reported that.
No, you've just bold-faced said it was a lie. So obviously you have evidence.
You tell me the journalists that have. You tell me the journalists that have reported that. You tell me the journalists that have reported that, or have you taken that from the same people that killed the 3 British aid workers yesterday?
I take that from the video evidence of the army who have gone in.
Say that again. Say that again more slowly. The video evidence that who?
the video evidence from the Israeli army, from lady soldiers.
So there we are.
Into the hospital,
and that's the answer to your question. They can't let
yeah.
journalists in because then people like you wouldn't be able to take videos filmed by the actual soldiers killing the civilians as truth, would you?
Well, from your position, James, anything Israel says is obviously always going to be wrong.
Which is why you need independent journalists in there. Which is why you need independent journalists in there, Trevor.
And he's exactly right. James is 100% true on this, because Israel know that if they allow independent journalists, the truth will be exposed. You know, when they raided the Al-Shafira hospital, guys, they claimed that there were Hamas fighters, or there was a Hamas headquarters or tunnels or whatever in there. And I remember looking at the footage that they had, the Israeli Defense Force had shown, and I remember looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, where's the markings of Hamas? Where's the actual evidence that says Hamas were 100% here? Like, where is that evidence? And struggling to find it, you know, it's almost as if there's none there. I mean, a lot of it felt like it was planted as well. I just think, and he's nailed this caller without a shadow of a doubt. James has.
Well, you see it now, finally.
So you're accepting Hamas's figure, which
no,
you're saying is
I'm accepting a Human Rights Watch's analysis of how the Palestinian Health Authority assembles its figures.
No,
and you are reminding everybody listening why journalists aren't allowed in by Israel, because you wouldn't then be required to rely on footage filmed by the actual soldiers killing the actual civilians, Trevor. But here you are, live.
And this is the thing. Like, how can we believe the IDF? How can we believe anything that they are showing inside Gaza? We cannot trust anything that the IDF heard. There's been so many accusations. I've seen a WhatsApp message on Twitter. I've seen a WhatsApp message. I don't know if this is true or not, so I'm going to state this as an allegation. I've seen a WhatsApp message of a group of Israeli forces mocking one of the dead people from that strike of aid workers in a WhatsApp message with laughing emojis and whatnot. Laughing about it. You're gonna tell me that's made up as well? Oh, has that been made up as well?
On the radio, saying it out loud.
James, you're very good at contorting, distorting.
I'm not, Trevor. I'm very good at holding up mirrors and repeating people's words back to them.
You're an excellent journalist, but you use it to create.
I'm very good at repeating people's words back to them. Without you, Trevor, I'm nothing.
Trevor has no leg to stand on this. I'm sorry, but he has no leg to stand on this, guys. He has no leg to stand on. It's ridiculous. It really, really is. I'm just going to come to see you guys, some of your comments in the chat. I want to thank you all guys for your comments on the live poll as well, asking, do you believe Israel will be punished for the crimes it has committed inside Gaza, allegedly? So do you think that they will be punished of some sort? It could be any kind of punishment, whether severe or light, whether it's fine, whatever. But do you think that any kind of punishment will come towards Israel for its alleged crimes inside Gaza? 40% of you say yes, 36% of you say no, and 24% of you say don't know. 25% of you have cast your vote on that. So thank you for your votes so far on that. Where is my brain? Has anyone seen it, Duke? I have no idea, Duke. I have no idea. I hope you're doing well, by the way. Get me a beer, says Jal. Getting a drink, says Duke as well. I don't blame you for this. Watching this earlier and the call was just upset and infuriating, says Stephen Banker. I do not trust in people like that. That Andrew Luke, people are unable to control their emotions, always a risk. I'm sure he's not talking about the Andrew Luke here in the live chat. I'm sure he's talking about someone else. Yeah, Mark Vehicle, IDF had new clearance just as REGANELITE stated. Yes. Everyone's saying hello to 91 Leeds. Canada joins the Netherlands, Japan, Spain, Belgium, and suspending arms sales. Andrew Luke says to Al Jazeera. Okay. Canada stopped 3 or 4 weeks ago. There. If you have, just remind people if you missed the poll there. Jal's saying thanks for that. I'm just going to scroll up, see what anyone else talking about climate change there. Just seeing. Ben Shaw says the 7 were targeted. They hit 1 car out of the 3 cars. The survivors of that got in the next car and they bombed the car. Then they bombed the car of the 3 when the survivors got in. I could see number 3 if I didn't say hello already. Well, Israel's destroying a lot of support to it in Europe, and now they are walking old walls and now saying here the same as NZ. Not pretty, not my opinion, but that is happening. They are destroying their reputation. The government is definitely destroying their reputation. No need to say sorry, REGANELITE, those kind of words to deserve to have anger and swear words, says Satu. Yeah, I try to refrain from swearing, but I haven't got I don't monetize my live streams anyway, so I can swear to my heart's content if I really wanted to. Seeing Army says always follow the money, says Stephen Banker. Yeah, money does seem to be the thing that comes round. Coming around with it too, to be fair. I loved the Muppets when I was a little kid. Animal was my favourite, and the Swedish cheese. Oh, he's talking to me about Smiling Sunak. Oh, sorry, my apologies, Andrew Luke. Apologies, guys. Who's going to punish them? Nobody, says Ben Shaw. Well, it's only, says Ben Shaw. Well, it's only going to infuriate Ollie even more, guys. But, Ollie is not happy about this whatsoever, guys. But if you want to make Ollie's day better, you can help me, guys, by hitting that like button and sharing across social media so others are notified of this video. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. And any way of financially supporting me really does help me in any way, shape or form. So if you're not a YouTube member, please consider subscribing to the YouTube membership for as little as 99p, where you get access to special benefits and perks, which some people I'm sure are going to play in the live chat there. So any financial support is greatly appreciated. So we're going to carry on with Gaza a little bit more, guys. So this next one here, Gaza has the world record in killing children, women, doctors, and journalists. The General Secretary General of NRC Norway, Jan Ekins, said he's not surprised aid workers were killed by the IDF, as 200 have already died. The IDF said the strike did not intend to target aid workers. How can we possibly believe the IDF after already 200 have died, guys?
There is little of both among aid workers. They have provided millions of meals for starving Palestinians, and they have been courageous and proactive. They have used the maritime route from Cyprus. It's not a good route, really, because but it's a desperate route because Israel is not opening the land crossings to the north, and they were then in a convoy returning from the north when their 3 vehicles were targeted deliberately, repeatedly by attack drones from the Israeli Defense Forces.
How surprised are you that such an error was made?
Not very surprised. It seems the world is surprised, but listen, 200 Palestinian aid workers were already killed.
World Central Kitchen. Literally says World Central Kitchen on it. And this is the thing that really should infuriate people. The fact that Jen here is saying he's of the Norwegian Refugee Council. He's saying that he's not surprised. This is the thing that... does this not shock you? How does this not shock you? No, it doesn't surprise me that innocent aid workers were killed here. It doesn't surprise me. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking to myself, where on earth were all these people? Why was the anger? I just feel like here in Britain, guys, I generally feel like because 3 British civilians lost their lives in this, I generally feel like it's because British citizens died that maybe that the government and the mainstream media are kind of waking up to more of this. That's how I generally feel about this. I don't think it's a case of just because of aid workers dying, because aid workers were already dying, but because it's British citizens that have died, oh, we need to highlight this a bit more than we should.
170 from the UN, 30 from the Palestinian Red Crescent. Many NGOs have seen attacks. Gaza has world record in killed children, killed women, all innocent, killed teachers, killed nurses, doctors, and journalists. So yeah, on top of that, world record in killing of aid workers. These were internationals, and that's why they got all of this attention. But it's equally horrific when Palestinian colleagues are killed.
Yeah, because it's on an international scale, this is why it's highlighted. But because it was if it was just all Palestinians, there would not be as big of a story about this. So I'm just going to show you some, yeah. So these here, guys, this was outside, this was on the weekend, guys. Excuse me. If you haven't seen it already, this was a scene outside the Israeli embassy in Jordan a few hours ago on 28th of March. Thousands of protesters who have been demanding the immediate closure of the embassy have now been pushed out of the area. Great deal of anger. And that's just Jordan. That's just Jordan. Here, I'll just play this one again. So this one, I don't need the sound for this, but protesters sit in against Israel military manufacturer Ibit Systems at the central station in the Swedish city of Gothenburg in support of Palestine and Gaza. So that's been happening. That was happening there over the weekend as well. This was in New York City. Nearly 30,000 protesters marching in New York City in solidarity with Palestinians and rejection of Israeli genocide in Gaza. So this was obviously before the attack as well. 30,000 there in New York City, and as well, just to highlight, in other places in America as well. This is in Johannesburg. Protesters rallied in front of the US Consulate in Johannesburg, South Africa, to protest Israel's attack on the Gaza Strip here. So also in South Africa. Obviously, you would expect that in South Africa, considering how the country is had filed a case against Israel in the ICJ. And obviously, they were already, long before what happened, calling on the weapons arms to stop being supplied from the US to them there. And just a couple more here. So Ed Davies was asked about the situation here. And he's calling for an end to the British arms export to Israel here. I'll give my point in a moment, but let's just hear what he has to say here. He was speaking to Channel 4 News.
It's absolutely shocking that these aid workers have been killed in Gaza, and I really think now is the time to end British exports of arms to Israel.
Where were you before? Again, it's all well and good you saying this now. You are no different than AOC, what we covered earlier. You are saying this now because it's highlighted in the mainstream media. Like I always say, yeah, it takes innocent people, more innocent, because it's British citizens, because it's an international incident, because so many nations have lost lives because of that attack, that now you're waking up to this. Where were you before? 32,000 Palestinians that we are supplying weapon arms to Israel. And only now, Ed Davies, now you're calling for this?
It does look like Israel has broken humanitarian law, and we really shouldn't be exporting arms to any country that breaks international humanitarian law. And the Democrats have been calling for a long time for immediate bilateral ceasefire. The Israelis have not listened to international pressure on that. And so I think by ending British arms exports to Israel, it will send a very, very powerful signal, and including not just to Israel, but to America, who supplies most arms to Israel. And hopefully they will...
I don't agree with that premise, One Angry Pagan. She has a choice, and she chose not to speak out. She chose not to speak out. Yeah, and she's more vocal than other Democrats. You know, she's someone that I want to make this on the record. I really do admire and respect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the work that she does. She does wonderful work. She has powerful speeches, and she's someone that I really do admire and respect. But her silence, I'm sorry, is not. Her silence on this matter is no justification for it. I'm sorry, I don't accept that premise.
Review that policy.
Another one who was silent on the matter as well. This one here, this is the former chief executive of the World Food Kitchen, Nate Mooks, who's speaking to Sky News earlier today with regards to the situation as well.
I don't know whether you heard, but Jan Egeland was just on from the Norwegian Refugee Council, and he was talking about what he considered to be this increasing recklessness of the Israeli military machine, and that they were not taking enough care of civilian casualties. Do you have a thought on that?
You know, I think like all of us, we're watching this unfold, and clearly now with World Central Kitchen no longer up in Gaza, NERA, another NGO that is operating in Gaza for decades, is no longer operating in Gaza. Another NGO, GEM, Global Empowerment Mission, has said that it is reconsidering its operations. I spoke to friends at GEM earlier today, and they were not very far from where some of the bombs were falling on Monday.
And these guys are trying to do their work. They're just trying to help Palestinians. They don't want anything to do with this war and this conflict. They're just trying to get the food in, trying to get the food out, and they're trying to help these people. And what are they doing? They're not doing nothing. And they're losing their lives here. They're just trying to get aid to these people who are dying of famine. And they're not doing anything about it. Israel want these Palestinians wiped out. I've said this before. They want Palestinians to die. They generally do, guys.
And so, you know, this is going to have a catastrophic impact to an already terrible situation for the civilians on the ground. The UN has reported that famine is happening in Gaza. And so we've seen the boats got turned around. And, you know, it's clearly a situation that is getting worse, not better. Access is extraordinarily limited. We've heard how so few trucks, aid organizations are able to get in so few trucks, which is why World Central Kitchen was trying everything it could and was using this boat route. And so, you know, all of this just seems so unnecessarily
It's so stupid. And the thing is that they know. Israel know exactly what they are doing. They are deliberately and intentionally blocking aid. And that's why we had a few weeks ago about them dropping aid into Gaza via planes, because Israel were being so stubborn so annoying about stopping aid getting in. This is deliberate, intentional. And this is damaging, and it's been said, it's damaging their reputation as a nation. You know, everything that people thought about, you know, whatever you might think about what's been happening years and years and years before, long before this attack, you know, people in the outside world did not see Israel as a horrible, terrible country. But that's the painting that's being pictured now because of how the Israel government are treating Palestinians ever since this attack. And it's only now that people are starting to realise this. But they've been treating Palestinians like this long before the October 7th attack. Long before that.
Tragic right now. And I think that's what's so heartbreaking about all of this is, you know, World Central Kitchen team was simply trying to help people. And it was trying to do it within the parameters that they were given. And this was the result. And just, you know, it's so impossible to wrap our heads around what has taken place, but we're trying to do our best to remember those who, you know, were so special, so special.
Yeah, and they've lost their lives doing what they're doing. And like it said at the start of the clip there, down under the headline, that they are heroes, all of them, because they're trying to help other people, and they sacrifice their own lives to try and help those that nobody inside, that nobody under the occupation that they're in is trying to help them. Israel are treating them absolute like crap. And these aid workers are making the greatest of sacrifice, putting their lives at risk to try and get aid, to try and get food, to try and get everything that they need so that these people can live. And they've lost their lives because of that. They lost their lives because of it. Just this one as well, which is a cause for concern that's also dropped here as well.
Just some interesting developments in Gaza. The UN is announcing this evening that it is suspending movements in Gaza at night for at least 48 hours. That's to evaluate security, they say, after the killing of the World Central Kitchen staff. The UN suspending movements in Gaza at night for at least 48 hours.
Now, that's understandable, simply because they just cannot trust. You just can't trust Israel. But you can't even trust them during the day, let alone the night, because of the atrocities that they've already occurred. I know, it's frustrating. How many more have we got? Right, I'm going to. Well, this is the last one, guys, and then we'll move on. From the BBC.
I mean, is your argument that there was mistaken identity, that you thought that they might be terrorists? Because it just seems quite difficult, that argument, it just seems quite difficult to make that argument when we can all see that the cars were clearly marked as an aid convoy.
Right, well, I can tell you again that Hamas has used ambulances. It's used ambulances to transfer hostages. It's used ambulances to transfer to senior Hamas terrorists.
Okay, well, explain this to me then, smart guy. How come that the IDF were aware of these cars? How come they were aware that they were marked as aid? How come they were told about exactly their routes, exactly where they were going? Where is your evidence to say that these were Hamas targets? You have none. This is pathetic. They're just defending an indefensible case here.
You can't say that this is some Hamas narrative. Your military has done something appalling, which has killed aid workers who were delivering aid to people on the brink of starvation.
Well, I would reject the narrative that is a Hamas narrative, that there's...
It's not a Hamas narrative. It is the narrative. It's not a Hamas narrative. This is the actual narrative here. And all these people do is literally propagate, yeah, that Israel, that it's Hamas, it's all Hamas, this, Hamas, that, Hamas, this, like that and they even claim that every single person that has died at their hands, they always say, oh, well, there are always casualties in war. And they always exaggerate the number of Hamas fighters that they killed. They exaggerate it, yeah, so that they could try to make it look like less innocent Palestinians have died at their hands as well.
There's imminent starvation, that there's imminent famine.
I understand that you will blame Hamas for it. Are you denying that there's a catastrophic humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip? UN Security Council resolution, that.
I'm saying that there are clear indications and questions to be had on the data used to get to the point where they say that there is imminent famine. I do not believe that there's imminent famine in Gaza.
Is this guy for real? Is this guy for real? Have you not been paying attention? Like, are you going to tell me all the TikTok videos, the Twitter videos, the feeds, the YouTube videos that have been put out on what's happened, on what we have seen inside the Gaza Strip? You're going to tell me all that is fake? It's all fake, guys. It's all fake. And this number that 32,000 Palestinians have died, it's all fake, guys. There's no starvation. No, the UN must be lying. The World Food Kitchen must be lying. They're all lying, and we're going to believe you. No. Sorry, I'm just not going to buy that. I really am not. And I know that you guys aren't going to buy this nonsense from him either. Guys, just want to say thank you who have endured that annoyance there when it comes to it. I'm going to end the poll now for the on the live poll here on the YouTube chat, asking, do you believe Israel will be punished for the crimes it has committed inside Gaza allegedly? 42% of you said yes, 34% of you said no, 23% of you said you don't know, 26 of you casted your vote. Just want to say thank you to everyone who's casted their vote, had their say on that. Greatly appreciate it. IDF killed charity workers, end off. They did. The footage is there. The footage is there. Who started this? I reject that narrative nonsense, says Caffel. Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. Knowing a little history, my hobby, this is frustrating. It is so frustrating. Like, the thing is like, if they accept, if Israel accepts its role and responsibilities, you know, I don't think there would be as much anger at Israel if they just accepted ownership and responsibilities for its failings here. I really don't think so, because people would say there would be a lot more sympathy for Israel, but there's none because they're not showing it. They have none. And I've said this before in my World News Round or at the Snowflake Corner, wherever we cover it on there, guys. I've said this before. They don't look at Palestinians like human beings. They don't look at them as even second-class citizens. They see them as vermin. They see them as scum. That's how this government and and the IDF see them as. They don't care about these people. They would rather see them wiped off the face of the earth. They really would. They see them less as dogs than animals, less than them. That's how they see them. That's just so heartbreaking. I know, Ollie. I'm angry too. It is sad, guys. It really is sad. It's ideological slaughter, says one angry pagan. It is ideological slaughter. It is. It is slaughter. Let's move on to a bit more domestic stuff here, guys. I want to share with you some things from with regards to Julian Keegan and the free childcare here. I'm going to start with this one here. Implausible blog with this one here, with Sally Newton saying it's not true when Julian Keegan says Labour will continue with the free childcare. Keegan says Labour says on Newsnight.
Rollout as if Labour got into power, because they've said they will not continue with free childcare, which is something that we believe is really important.
First of all, that's not true. I would also just point out we have had Labour on the programme this morning. They were interviewed and spoke about this. So we're not talking about Labour. We're talking about government policy right now. I just want to share.
Well, actually, they did say they would stop this policy. They said they wouldn't continue to roll it out.
They said this morning they were going into consultation.
On when an election is, well, going into
at the time of this recording, I've seen reports that they are going to be carrying on this childcare policy. So Julian Keegan is talking up her backside on this, guys.
Consultation is not committing to deliver.
It's not saying they're not.
And we're not interested in what Labour is saying. We want to know what you're saying.
Doing it though either, is it?
This is 6,900. They have said on Newsnight last week, they said they were not going to do it.
They've got no plan about how they make it happen, and I think they risk crashing the childcare system just as they crashed the economy under Liz Truss. We've heard from providers that they are just going to really struggle to make this happen, and what we hear from parents right across the country is that when they go and try to access these entitlements, these commitments that the Conservatives have made, the places just aren't there.
And this is the problem. Like, they've put this policy into saying, yay, more childcare places for you guys, you know, so that more of you can go back to work. But there's no places. And this is exactly the point that Bridget has put on the point here. And I've talked about this in my video. A relative of mine who works in private childcare. And she's told me, like, we can't take any more in. And some of these, if they want to get on the waiting list, yeah, they've got to wait at least 2 years to get on the waiting list, to get on the list. Not next year, not this September, not next September. No, I'm talking 2 years down the road. Like, that's how long it has to be. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
I'm determined that the approach that Labour will take is different, and that's why I've asked Sir David Bell, who was formerly the Chief Inspector of Officers.
I do think maybe they should consider reversing this, because the system cannot cope with this. It may seem cruel, But I do think they should consider reversing this, Labour. Because simply, quite frankly, the sector cannot cope with this. Now, unless Labour have a plan to get it up to quickly get in the workers and the childcare systems in place here to do that, I just can't see this working. I do think they should seriously consider reversing it.
Instead, to lead an early years review for Labour, so that when we set out further commitments around this, and I will have more to say going into the general election, we are clear about how we make this happen.
We've got stage 1 the 1st of April, stage 2 September this year, that's probably before election, but the final stage, September 25, that's definitely after the election. It sounds like you're saying back to the drawing board. I can't guarantee that.
The system does require reform overall, because what we saw in the budget...
I do agree with Bridget here that the system will need requiring reform. And obviously one thing Labour are doing, they are kind of like sitting on the back. They have to kind of sit on the back foot on this one. I do wish they would be more clear on things, but at the same time, they're also scared of upsetting certain voters and whatnots as well. So, and considering their lead they have over the Conservatives, they don't want to do anything to rock that boat, I will say.
It was just a tacking on of additional commitments to a system that I don't think is working either for providers or for parents. If Labour wins that election, if we form that next government, if we secure the trust of the British people, there'll be an awful lot of problems that we've got to sort, and this is one of the biggest and most pressing priorities that we face. But it's also an area of real opportunity where if we do things differently, we can make sure that we're setting up children to succeed at the earliest point in their lives.
It's going to be a long haul. I honestly believe that we've already lost a generation of kids already, guys. No matter what Labour do when they come into government, I do believe we've already lost that generation. As much as I would love to say that, hey, they're going to fix it, they're going to fix it all and everything, just not going to see that. My Angry Pagan says it's frustrating, but we will ultimately have to wait for that manifesto. Labour will continue the 2-child benefit cap, though the #1 cause of child poverty and hunger, says Phil for Kraken. Good to see you there, Phil. Yeah, that's one that's really infuriating as well. I know, it's really annoying.
So on childcare, battle lines drawn between the two main parties on a potentially defining issue for the general election.
Yeah, defining issue for sure. And remember, Julian Keegan wants your appreciation, guys. Remember,
you know what,
Julian Keegan wants your appreciation.
Does anyone ever say, you know what, you've done a good job because everyone else has sat on their arse and done nothing? No signs of that, no?
Yeah, you've done a great job, Gillian. You've done a great job. Do we want to hear from her again on it? No, I don't think so. I don't think I want to put you guys through that. So the chief of the EYA Alliance is representing the early providers here. So providers are deciding to opt out entirely of the government scheme because it's so poorly funded and organised. Another example of announce first and work it out as we go along. In other settings, you'd be sacked, basically. Let's hear what they have to say here.
Backdrop of record announcement was made against a backdrop of record closures within the sector, a recruitment and retention crisis that we've never witnessed before. And we're struggling to cope with the existing entitlements, never mind the biggest investment that government says it's made in the early years. So,
my not my partner, my other family member that I know who was in the childcare sector was saying, who works in private childcare, is just saying this, like they're already stretched. They're like before this policy come in, they were already stretched. They were already too much. You know, from friends and associations within the sector, it was too much already. So it's like it's trying to paint this picture that the government are actually doing something, when in actual fact they're just kind of just throwing this out there as a bone to the people to basically say, look, we're making things easier for you guys. See, we're not just sitting on our backsides doing absolutely nothing. This is what they're trying to paint this picture. Phil says that it's not that they don't know what to do, it's that they both want power and believe the campaign for the racist and bigot votes in the best way. Yeah.
I'm afraid it won't be as simple as somebody getting their code, knocking on the door and saying, I want my place. And it will get tougher as the programme starts to roll out. At the moment, it's predominantly, I would suggest, parents who are already in a setting and are switching across from making payments through to actually having the free entitlements or so-called free entitlements. When we get to September of 24, that position, of course, will change because we'll be looking at children from 9 months onwards, and then the challenge will come. Never mind the year after, when all of that doubles to 30 hours. So I think it's a tough call, actually, at this point in time.
So nurseries, you know, who don't have any spaces, don't have to take parents who have these codes. They'll just simply be able to say, well, we haven't got the spaces for you, we haven't got the staff.
Yeah, that's what's happening at the moment. I mean, I'm talking to providers who are deciding to actually opt out entirely of the government scheme because they feel it's so poorly funded, so poorly organised. I mean, you know, I think it's important to understand that we, as an organisation, we're the largest membership organisation in England. We represent around 14,000 nurseries, childminders, preschools. And we got to hear about this biggest investment 10 minutes before the Chancellor stood up in Parliament.
10 minutes? What kind of... How can you only tell them 10 minutes before the budget? What is wrong with these people? Where is the goddamn planning? Just throwing a policy out there. Like, it's just so diabolical. It's so insulting as well to a sector that is already stretched, already struggling. It's so insulting. It really, really is. I cannot believe how disembodied and pathetic these Conservatives are. Like, even, like, this is the thing, like, even before these whole right-wingers, like, even under, I even believe this, guy, believe it or not, I even think a Theresa May government would not be this out of touch. Like, at least I think they would give more than 10 minutes notice before a budget if they were to introduce something like this to the childcare system. Maybe I'm just pulling strings here, but maybe that's just me. But, like, these last several Conservative governments, it's just, I just don't understand why they are just so sitting back on this.
Now, if you were in any other walk of life in terms of business,
yeah,
and you hadn't talked to your production director or your sales director, or if it was retail, your retail outlets, frankly, I think as a CEO, you would be sacked, but somehow that's good enough for the early years. And this is just another example of announce first and work it out as we go along. And that's the problem.
So what infrastructure is needed to deliver this, do you think? What infrastructure is needed?
Well, we need a structure where the early years is recognised as being part of the education system. At the moment, just about every policy, every conversation is about getting mothers predominantly back into the working environment. It's not about the child. It's not about the best interests of children.
This is exactly the point. Like, this is the interpretation that I've been hearing from not just from the chief here, but from other people when it comes to this. Like, it feels like that. Who cares about the children? We got to get people back into work, get them back into work, get them off the benefit system, get them all back into work. They're not even, you know, and they keep saying, like, and they're scrutinising obviously people on benefits, getting them like, oh, it doesn't matter if you're disabled, get them back into work, get them back into work. This is the premise that they're having. Just frustrating. Little Rishi here, obviously. Oh, what the hell? What just happened there? Sorry, 1 second. Little Rishi here, obviously commenting on it, having an introduction.
We've also made it easier to become a childminder. There are new £1,000 bonuses for people who are signing on to enter the profession as well, cut the red tape that was making it a bit trickier for people to become childminders. All these things are making it easier for us to provide the support that we want to, which, as I said, 30 hours of free childcare from the time your little one's 9 months old all the way up to when they start school at 4. This week it's being rolled out to 2-year-olds.
And where's the money for this? Where's the staff for this? Where was the preparation for this? None of this was introduced at all. It's just throwing it out there to try and get people back into work. None of this.
Total support is worth £7,000. It's about supporting families and making it easier for them to make choices around juggling childcare and their career. So it's a really big positive development.
Is it really a positive development? I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. This clip here is an interesting one. The Prime Minister was challenged by a mum over the government's childcare policy at a nursery in Hartlepool this morning. She told him nurses are struggling and it doesn't feel like the system has got the foundation right. So let's just hear this one. This is an interesting one, guys.
Pressures from one side, other side, to fit them in. There's a lot of costs going up and up and up. And then also the fear is that while you're putting these systems in place, that nurseries are struggling as well. So the fear is that we'll lose another nursery in the town because the system doesn't feel, or certainly the information is coming out that doesn't feel like the system is got the foundations right. So we've got the free hours, the funded hours, but the nurseries.
Do you have kids here?
I have 2 kids here.
Yeah.
And,
how old are they?
Sounds like already, based on his... Are you watching his facial expressions, by the way? You know, it sounds like to me he's already trying to distract from this question as well.
2 and 3.
Oh,
so
great.
we've been hit quite, for the first 2 years has been expensive.
Yeah.
And coming in from a maternity leave, that the maternity pay is quite low. You're already paying off that money to come into a job and then pay, what, £1,800 a month for
and
2 kids.
that's exactly what that gap is, what this expansion will fix. So we've gone obviously we've had for 3 and 4 year olds, so now we're going down to 2 year olds and then to 9 months old. So the entire gap from maternity leave until your little one starts school that will then all be there, and the support will be there, which will be.
He's not even looking at her. He's not even looking at her. Like, talk about rude. Like, not even answering the question, and he's not even looking at her. Talk about disrespect.
Good. And your point is right, which is why we need to take the time to invest in the sector to expand the number of places, because that's such a big.
Only right there, he just turned for a second to look. Talk about rude. Didn't even answer the question there, and I didn't feel like that she. She was generally putting up things that she was concerned about. And how did Richie respond? Oh, just asked her about, are you a mum? Oh, are you a mother too? Like, literally trying to distract her from what was a genuine question about, like, the situation here. Last one there, guys. Education Secretary saying they're looking at the wrong end of the stick here.
They only have the people who've registered with them, so it doesn't include preschools, those ones that are attached to schools. It also doesn't include childminders. So, as usual, Labour are looking at the wrong data and looking at the wrong end of the stick.
Well, our political correspondent Matthew Thompson joins me now. I mean, is Labour getting the wrong end of the stick? Are parents able to just go up to a nursery and say, I want my 15 hours of free childcare?
Well, look, certainly on the larger data set that Gillian Keegan was referencing there, the Department for Education data, it does appear as though there were more childcare places available last year. But here's the rub. My brief back of the fag packet math suggests that the numbers went up last year by about 3%. And yet some estimates of the total rise in demand once the full rollout of childcare takes place right through to 2025 put the increase in demand at something like 15%. So Labour do, I suppose, still have a point when they say that they're concerned that there aren't going to be enough places. But it's not just opposition politicians saying so. It's actually a number of childcare providers as well. We're here in the sunny northeast because the Prime Minister's here campaigning and talking about childcare. It's admittedly a sample size of one, but I spoke to one nursery provider earlier this morning who was just out walking her children. And she said that she was deeply concerned about her ability to find staff and to provide any more free childcare hours than she's already doing.
And we've already heard about the situation from one there, but that just kind of exacerbates what we've already covered, really, guys. It's incredibly infuriating, to say the least there, guys. If you haven't already, guys, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated, and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. Got a couple more clips for you guys before we wrap things up as well. I'm just going to check to see what you guys have been saying in the chat, just to catch up a little bit there. Saying one thing but doing another is also known as lying, says Phil. That is true. Are we sure Rishi isn't a Nigerian prince, says Simon? I don't think he's a Nigerian prince. I don't think so. Just going to go out on on a limb. Andrew Luke thinks that Rishi Sunak may be a Nigerian prince, but we don't know. Not being rude or prophet of doom, but I hear people in the US and the UK commenting on how the UK is going to have to lose a large part of its social state, says Jow. I hope not, but it all depends. Labour are going to have to make some. They're going to have to make some kind of reforms. That is one thing for sure. If they get into power, which is a likely thing. What's that? Ideally, we shouldn't need childcare. Wages should be high enough to live off one income for one parent to stay at home. That would be the ideal situation, Steve. Problem is that our wages are just too low here in the UK. They're just too low. Like if I was still in my previous job with my partner, and we both and she earns a decent income, and I was earning a decent income, both of us. It still would not be enough for us to live to afford to be able to pay all the bills, plus food and whatnot. It would not be enough, and that's decent jobs. I'm not talking even about low paid jobs, by the way. But that's what it would be ideal. But we just don't live in that kind of world here. But it should be the case that it should be that way, but it's not, unfortunately. The problem is that it never used to be a necessity for both parents to work to be able to afford to raise a family. Now it's possible. Now it's not possible to live on one income, hence the demand for childcare. Yeah, that's exactly it, Steve. Yeah, they expect you to work more for less. This is what they are expecting you now. This has become the normal of you are expected to do more, and you are expected to earn less for it. This is the premise that has been created, which is wrong in every way, shape, or form. And that's the premise that's been created here. We've already informally lost a lot of it. Joe Keith Starmer wants to walk that way, says Andrew Luke. Responding to it, Joe says, I think we were talking about and presenting proof. I think people residing in the UK are the ones who need to talk about it. Fixing the Tory, saying to one Angry Pagan saying to Phil McCracken isn't what I'm saying. Fixing this Tory mess first and then dropping bad policies going forward isn't the same as saying one thing. We're doing also is also knowing a line. Again, isn't what I'm saying. Well, agreements to disagreements, shall we say, on Labour. So I'm just gonna have a quick scroll. There was one or two I wanted to cover from here. So this little clip, guys, it is still in regards to Gaza. So we are technically going back to it a little bit, but this one was from led by donkeys.
So you've never had a piece of paper put in front of you by a Foreign Office lawyer that says that Israel is in breach of its international humanitarian commitments under international humanitarian law?
Look, the reason for not answering this question, I can't recall every single bit of paper that's been put in front of me.
I'm not going to play the rest because you've already seen the footage, but yeah. Can't remember every single paper put in front of you, David. Didn't you used to be a former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom? Maybe I'm just going mad, you guys. Maybe I'm just going mad. This one really grinds my gears. If you have not seen this, this is going to drive you up the wall. Mega rich Rishi Sunak offers financial advice to members of the public in a bizarre video. I kid you not.
Thank you. Okay.
Ronnie, hello again. How are you?
No, sorry, I wasn't expecting you.
Hi, Kat. Hi, Honor. How are you?
That's such a fake laugh. Am I the only one who thinks his laugh is really, really fake?
Good, hi, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. It's Rishi. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so pleasantly surprised. Small business owners like ourselves have school, exams for honour coming up and homework, and it's just quite a lot. So do you have any advice on how we can handle that and work our way around it?
Do you think Rishi Sunak is going to give you... What do you guys think? Do you think mega rich Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is going to give you guys the advice that you so desperately need, guys, in this difficult situation? What do you guys think? Do you think he's going to give some real good, helpful advice here? I'll give you guys a moment to think about it. Do you actually think he's going to give legitimate advice?
Best way to manage it, I tell you, is, and you guys are really lucky because you've got co-founders, right? There's 2 of you, and that is the special thing which you must not lose, is that you guys can lean on each other, and hopefully you have complementary strengths. You guys.
Yes, that's it. You guys have got each other, so because you guys are together, you've got the strength.
You guys can divide and conquer.
What is the government?
Because you can divide and conquer. Yeah, so that's Rishi Sunak's advice there. That's it. That's all we've showed there.
Doing to encourage SMEs like mine to hire apprentices?
We are now going to fully fund the cost of training young apprentices for SMEs. We found the money so that the government will fully fund the training, so there's no cost to the small business in taking on that apprenticeship when it comes to their training and development costs.
Notice how she never smiled, the woman, in that answer either as well. This one here, this grind my gears here. Conservative Party political broadcast just now, Ben Bradley says that the Labour-run councils, you're more likely to have to wait behind non-British nationals for social housing.
Labour councils failing local residents. If you live in a Labour council area, you pay more council tax, you're more likely to be a victim of crime, you're more likely to experience fly tipping, you're more likely to have to wait behind non-British nationals for social housing. Their record is terrible.
Your record is terrible. Correct me if I'm wrong, but who's been in government the last 14 years? I just think Ben Bradley here is just, you know, just... yeah, don't get me wrong, there are some bad Labour councils, but to say that all those things are going to happen if you vote Labour, I think I would rather, if I have to choose between Conservative and Labour, I think I'm going to choose Labour. Just saying, guys, just saying. Just remember, is homelessness is a lifestyle choice, obviously. Remember that.
Living in a tent has become a lifestyle choice.
No, it's not a lifestyle choice. Normally people have, had a lot of hardship before they got to that point. And, I've spoken to many people in that situation. Usually they'll have suffered some kind of breakdown or they'll be addicted to something and they need support and help into homes.
Living
I'm going to, this one really triggered me, guys. I'm sure you've heard this clip already, but this really infuriates me. So this is obviously what we've just seen. The previous clip is obviously regarding to the homelessness bill. Talk about inhumane. This is probably going to be the last political clip before we have one funny clip before we see ourselves out. But my God, like, these Conservatives, like, the smile on their face about this all. Now, I want you to really pay attention, not just to what's said, but really pay attention to the facial reactions from Gillian Keegan and from Kate Burley with regards to this homelessness bill, because it really does stark a contrast of how out of touch the government really is when it comes to the situation that ordinary people are facing.
The bill states that rough sleepers might be considered a nuisance if there's an excessive smell. So if you smell, you might be arrested.
Well, I mean, I think the most important thing, as I say, is to make sure we help people off the streets. No, I'm not saying it's funny, and I'm saying the most important thing is to help people off the streets. That's why we're putting
people be arrested if they smell
into this. Well, no, people should not be arrested just if they smell.
Why does the bill then say that rough sleepers might be considered a nuisance if there's an excessive smell? How ridiculous, some might say, to put that in the bill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at that detail of it, but I mean, I guess the word is excessive, and I don't know what they mean.
You're raising your eyebrows then.
It's not great to not know why the wording's in there, to have not given the impression that you've not read the bill, and then to also laugh because you find it funny.
I don't think she found it funny. I thought she was anxious about where we were going with that.
And I think she's embarrassed.
As a professional politician, should do a better job of controlling her responses.
If she gets in trouble with Downing Street, then you know what happens after that, don't you? There'll be no minister tomorrow. Bill states.
I love that bit at the end by Kate Burley. It's like, don't say anything that might stop the government. Ministers are not going to come to Sky News if we say something bad about them. Oh dear, guys. Oh God. Just going to check what you guys are saying. How do you gather evidence that someone smells? Is there like something where you could detect odor of somebody? Like, is there like an odor detector? Do the police have some kind of odor detector where they'll detect how much odor that someone has? No. Look. In all seriousness, guys, like, this is so cruel, so inhumane, disgusting. Nobody chooses to be homeless. Homelessness is not a lifestyle choice. The vast majority of people are in situations like these because of circumstances that be beyond their control. Some of these people are on the streets because they cannot afford a home. Some of these people are on the street because whether they may be migrants or immigrants that have come to the UK and they just happen to find themselves in this situation. There are some who are in this situation because of austerity, because of the cost of living crisis. I covered, and some of you guys may remember a while ago, we covered the story about the tents being taken away from our homeless people in Camden Town by Camden Town Council, who originally denied that they had said that they told the police to take them away, but then it came out and actually said that they had taken them away. And at that time, that was when Suella Braverman was saying homelessness was a lifestyle choice. And it kind of gave Camden Council the green light to do what they did at that time. If you want to reduce homelessness, you've got to build more houses. And not just any houses, affordable houses, social houses, council houses. But we know the government are not keen on those kind of houses. They don't want to build houses for the poor and the struggling. They want to build more homes for the rich and the wealthy so that it can continue to benefit from them. That's the kind of the premise that is being percepted here. These people need to be helped. You know, you need to help them off their street. When you see a homeless person, guys, you have to remember that, you know, some of these people who, and we talked about this before, that when they get money and get money from other people, and people leave them money, and sometimes they don't use it for food and drink in order to survive, and they use it for drugs. They do it for drugs for a mental issue, because of the situation there, because of their mental state as well. We don't think about the mental health side of it, the psychology and the situation that people are in, and I think that's really, really important. And like it says, we don't know what, we don't know why the Conservatives, or who the Conservatives are trying to appeal to, but we do know that certain right-wing media outlets now are trying to paint this picture. And I can't remember the story, but I was absolutely furious today on Twitter that Elon Musk quote tweeted an article from the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail. And the story was about an old couple allegedly being told that they're going to be kicked out of their house in favour of asylum seekers. Now, I haven't seen the article because I'm not going to pay to read a Daily Mail article, but people were saying in the comments to the tweet that is not what the letter was said, that they were sent by the council. That's not what they were sent. But because that was the headline, Elon Musk, with his millions upon millions of followers on Twitter, quote tweeted that as a reliable source. And people are going to buy into that. And it infuriates me so much. Good to see you there, Doug. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Thank you as always for. I just want to say, Doug, because I don't get a chance to say this on live stream. Doug on our Discord community, guys. He does poems. Doug's poetry corner on the Discord, and every now and then he'll drop a lovely poem there. So feel free to, if you're not part of the Discord community, to join us there and check out some of his lovely poems that he does there. It's very, very cool stuff. Ollie likes them, don't you, Ollie? I know you're not happy today. I know. No super chats or memberships today. That's all right. Maybe next time we will. I know some people have switched over to Max's live stream, and that's totally all right. I know he wasn't planning. It wasn't originally planned to do a live stream today, and he was meant to do it yesterday. But hey ho, what can you do? So guys, I've got one more video for you guys. I know it's been a long stream, but our good friend Mr. Jonathan Parr would like to speak to you guys before we wrap things up, guys. He has a nice point about the Scottish hate crime bill. I hope you guys enjoy it. You know I always like a bit of Jonathan Parr, and I hope you guys enjoy what he has to say too.
These new laws, which came into force yesterday under the Scottish hate crime bill, allow for jail sentences of up to 7 years to be imposed on those convicted of, quote, stirring up hatred against protected groups. Let's take a look. Sounds like a good bill, doesn't it? I mean, who doesn't hate crime? You'd have to be a really hateful person to hate a hate crime bill, wouldn't you? The only people who don't hate crimes are Nazis and children's fantasy authors, right? You know, of course, very difficult for a Guardian reading politically middle-of-the-road twat like me to have a pop at hate crime legislation, because if I do, all the Guardian reading politically middle-of-the-road twats like me will come out the woodwork and go, well, he just wants to go around punching trannies, doesn't he? You know, you suggest that this piece of law is fucking absurd, and people accuse you of wanting to spit at fat people when they're taking up too much space on the pavement. And yet, just the briefest of looks at the details of this new bill, you begin to see that it is, at best, massively ill-conceived, frighteningly vague, and therefore scarily open to abuse, utterly unworkable, and almost certainly unpoliceable, and at worst, an unthinkably draconian and insidious piece of legislation that attacks the civil liberties of anyone stepping foot across Hadrian's Wall who expresses an opinion that doesn't fit in the very narrow Overton's window of what so-called liberals would call acceptable. Under this law, you can go to prison for something you said privately in your own home. Someone else can hear what you said second-hand, then take offence at what they've heard you've said privately, and then report you to the police for something you said to someone else in private. And reporting it to the police is being openly encouraged by the government. And we're being told that these new laws are supposed to promote tolerance. And even if they decide that a crime hasn't taken place, it could still be recorded as a non-hate crime incident, which will go on your record and be available to potential employers without your knowledge. The extremely overworked police now investigating non-crimes. This is an absurd state of affairs. Humza Yousaf assures us that these new laws aren't open to abuse, and then throws the police under a bus by saying it's up to them to decide how the law is enforced. And he himself has already been reported to the police for a hate crime under the very law he's just brought in, because the wording of this new law singles out young white men as the most likely perpetrators of hate crime, and singling out any ethnic group or indeed gender, which the wording of this law does, is against this law. So the wording of the law itself is committing its own crime. They really haven't thought this through, have they? Yeah. And whilst we're told that comedy venues or theatres would not be specifically targeted by police, their training material says that public performances of a play is one of the ways abusive speech can be communicated, and it is possible for actors and directors to be found liable if certain protected groups find the performance offensive or inflammatory. Technically, an actor can be convicted of a hate crime for playing someone who incites hatred. Someone playing Hitler can now get done for being a Nazi. A straight actor playing a gay character could be deemed so offensive that they could conceivably get arrested. And if a comedian tells a joke that, heaven forbid, punches down, he could be facing 7 years in prison, which is the thin end of a very dull, boring wedge where all art is dead in favour of identity politics-based dogma, where people go to the theatre and comedy clubs, but there's nothing on, so you just have to sit there and discuss intersectional feminism whilst burning burning DVD copies of Brokeback Mountain. And of course, the police aren't going to target performers. They just have to wait for someone to complain about it, because there are hubs or official reporting centres where you can report these hate crimes. One of these hubs being a well-known sex shop in Glasgow. Just for your convenience, you can rat on your neighbour's unsavoury opinions about immigration whilst buying eye-wateringly abusive pornography. You can report Ricky Gervais for a hate crime whilst buying a dildo. It's a funny wee world we live in. That's my Scottish accent. Is doing a terrible Scottish accent a hate crime? Probably is now in Scotland. Which I'm not, so fuck it. Here comes a Highland granny, great big tits and a hairy fanny. Thank you. Protecting vulnerable people from abuse.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree, guys. This is this is the second time I've watched it. I'm gonna agree it's not the best one from Jonathan Pye, but you guys know I do like a bit of Jonathan Pye. The parts of it I agree, parts of it I don't agree. So yeah, not his best one, but it's not. It's a tough one. I have to say it's a. Let me just say that it is a controversial one, shall we say? I'm going to say it that. But it is a Scottish bill. It's not an English bill. So I think it's better for me to sit on the fence on this one if I'm absolutely honest. But did Pye just have a stroke? He may have had a stroke, Phil. He may have done. Jonathan Pye missed the point entirely here, said one angry pagan. He may have done. Disagree with him entirely. He's got the wrong end of the stick, said Steve. We Scott Dog agreed. Not his finest. Yeah. Pye is saying how they will use these laws. Yeah, I'm hoping he's just joking about all this. I generally hope so, because he does have a strong influence. Max is currently live streaming as well. Yes, I know, Airbus. I said it right at the start of the stream. I said if people wanted to switch over, they can switch over. That's entirely their choice. But you guys know I don't normally clash with Max, but he was supposed to go live yesterday, but he couldn't for whatever reason. But as far as we are concerned, Ollie has turned his frown upside down. Ollie, why are you smiling? He's smiling because Alistair Keir has gifted 5 memberships. Which he had no right to do so, because he's been extremely generous helping me out here. So he's given 5 gifted memberships to Daniel Connerbeer, Gareth Bede, Active Messiah, Gabby, and Daniel NLN there. Thank you, Alistair Keir, for the 5 gifted memberships. Those memberships, guys, not just from Alistair Keir, but those who choose to join and those who continue to support me, it really does make a massive difference for me financially, guys. It really does help make a massive difference. Obviously, I will be back tomorrow evening, not a live stream, but a premiere video with the Regan's News Round. There are some stories that I've caught on, which are like, oh God, which really grinds my gears. I've got some really some videos that I'll be publishing for you guys members after this live stream. I was going to do an after chat tonight, but I'm actually going to leave it for now. I will actually, just because of Max clashing and all that, so we'll leave it tonight. Okay, tomorrow night, Thursday night, after the Regan's News Round premiere, if you guys want to come and join me in the after chat, then I will do we'll do an after chat Thursday night on the Discord, guys. Yeah, we'll do it then. I promise. Yeah, I'm not gonna pull it back. Yeah, if you guys want to come and hang out, please come and do so. You're more than welcome to do so. Yeah, it'd be nice for us all to for some more people to turn up. I know One Angry Pagans comes around, and Andrew Luke whenever he can on Monday nights when we do our after chats. But anybody else wants to come and join us tomorrow night, we will do an after chat there. So if you guys want to come and join us there, you're more than welcome to do so. Phil McCracken, honestly, with 10 gifted memberships, thank you so much, Phil. That's really generous of you. By the way, I'm a big fan of Family Guy, so I do love your avatar. Jao has been gifted a membership. Bad News Badger, Willow Blossom, the Doctor, and Alan D, Harry Muff, Marina Neal, GR, Dazzle Boy, and WSOTW have all been gifted memberships. Phil, thank you so much for that. That's extremely kind for you. I really appreciate the support. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Phil. I know you don't always, can't always be there for the live chats, but whenever you are, I greatly appreciate it. And thank you for the support. I really, really appreciate it. And you, Alistair Keir, thank you guys for the memberships. It really does make a massive difference. You know, that 99p, that $2.99 membership, it may not seem like a lot of money, guys, but it does make a world of difference to me. So thank you guys so much. I do appreciate it. I am actually, just before we wrap things up, I am actually considering, not this weekend, but maybe perhaps next weekend, considering doing premiere videos on the weekends as well, so that every evening we could have people coming together, not just on Monday to Friday, because I know that most of us can come together on the weekdays, but I'm considering doing premiere videos on Saturdays and Sundays. Now, I don't necessarily mean that I will be there live in the chat with you guys, the premiere chats, but it does mean that if those of you don't have anything planned on those evenings, on those weekend evenings, if you guys still want to come together and watch videos, you guys can do that. So I am considering doing that as well. So just food for thought, because I'm thinking about keeping, you know, because I know you guys enjoy being all together every single night. So I'm thinking about doing something like that premiere video, dropping on a Saturday and Sunday night for you guys, perhaps switching things up. So, I haven't decided what content it would be. I'm still brainstorming. That's the kind of stuff. But just wanted to let you guys know on that. So, guys, just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's come along today. Thank you all so much for all your comments. Thank you so much for those who voted in the live poll as well. Greatly appreciate for all your thoughts, your comments and suggestions. Really greatly appreciate it. Airbus there, as if I didn't say hello to you, thank you as well. And everyone who's commented. I scrapped a 7,000 car and got 475 scrapping, so I'm flush. It's a win, right? Oh, nice one, Phil. That's great. Nice one, mate. Nice one. Great stuff, guys. So, he's very, very happy now. And the Orb and the Lava Lamp want to say thank you guys so much. We'll be back tomorrow with a premiere of Regan's News Round, where we cover 7 different stories and 7 different news outlets. And then on Friday, we will be back live on 7 o'clock UK time with the Snowflake Corner, where we'll be covering world news. So, guys, just so you guys are knowing what the update, and obviously there'll be another community poll dropping tomorrow morning, so feel free to cast your votes on that. But before you go, guys, if you haven't already, please consider hitting the like button, sharing this across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or you can join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. So yes, if the content on YouTube is not enough for your satisfaction, you could also find more on Patreon and Rumble there too. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.